The P90, or the Project 90, is FN's response to NATO's request to replace the 9mm firearms to deal with the rise of body armor. They ended up making one of the strangest looking yet incredibly effective SMGs with a completely unique manual of arms that is still widely used by police, special forces, and counterterrorism units worldwide. Being the eternal rival to the MP7, the P90 has always been in the spotlight for its unique design and being able to challenge any threat in its way, so let's talk about it. Collaborative research into small arms technology, or CRISAT, was NATO's study into dealing with the standardization of body armor, as the standard 9x19 caliber could not effectively deal with armored targets, and the Soviet Union had a lot of body armor to go around. The minimum requirements for CRISAT was to standardize a caliber that could effectively deal with 1.6mm thick titanium plate with 20 layers of Kevlar plate behind it. The first company to respond to this was Fabrik Nationale Herstal, or FN. FN is a powerhouse in the arms industry. Before they would make the P90, they had established themselves with things like the Browning High Power, the FAL, the FN Mag, and the FN Mini-Me. They started development of the P90 in 1986 alongside the 5.7 caliber, and during this time we would get the strangest variants of the P90. To remind you that cocaine was the most important meal of the 80s. Caltech has never forgotten this lesson. After this, in 1989, NATO would publish document D296 outlining the requirements for what they called a personal defense weapon, with the purpose to provide personal protection in last resort situations when the user is directly engaged by the enemy. In this document, they would outline the requirements of the new cartridge, which would have greater range, accuracy, and terminal performance than the 9x19 cartridge, additionally being able to penetrate body armor. A shoulder-fired personal defense weapon that has to weigh less than 3 kilograms with a magazine capacity of at least 20 rounds. A handheld personal defense weapon that has to weigh less than 1 kilogram with a magazine capacity of at least 20 rounds. Both weapons were to be sufficiently compact to be carried hands-free on the user's person at all times, whether in the cab of a vehicle or the cockpit of an aircraft, and were to perform effectively in all environments and weather conditions. Taking the list of requirements, FN would drastically change the design of the Project 90, and around 1990 they would give us the current design that we all know, the P90, featuring the now iconic 50-round translucent magazine to count how many shots you have left that sat parallel to the barrel and would rotate rounds 90 degrees to feed them into the gun. Fully ambidextrous controls, making it easy for left and right-handed shooters without the need for extra retooling. And an integrated reflex sight accompanied by 2 offset iron sights in case the reflex sight fails, along with the 5.7 by 28mm SS90 cartridge. FN wasn't satisfied with the SS90 cartridge as they thought it wasn't convenient to use in a pistol form, so they would retool it, making the SS190 cartridge. The SS190 cartridge was a shorter version of the 5.7 caliber designed around the development of the 5.7 pistol. They would in turn retool the P90 for this shorter caliber, completing both the new caliber and retooled P90 in 1993 and starting the development for the 5.7. The P90 and the 5.7 caliber would then get the next decade to mature and evolve before its longtime rival, the MP7, would show up, and with it showing up, the Nato Trials would officially start in 2002. The trials were overseen by a group of experts from Canada, France, the UK, and the United States, and they came to the conclusion that the 5.7 caliber was undoubtedly the better caliber. It was better at dealing with unarmored targets and the targets under the armor compared to the MP7, which is better at going through armor. With it also having a similar design and manufacturing process to the 5.56 NATO standard, it could easily be built on currently existing production lines. The 5.7 caliber and the P90 easily beat out the MP7. They even went so far as to remember to make a pistol chambered in the same caliber like NATO asked for the trials. Remember, the UCP was never real. HK even admitted it was cancelled and never went into full production. So the P90 and the 5.7 caliber were on their way to get adopted by NATO, but the German delegation was not happy with this outcome and would reject the standardization of the 5.7 and P90, leaving it up to the individual nation to choose their preferred PDW. We all know the reason Germany was mad was because HK did not win and that they couldn't HK bullshit their way through this by not completing one of the 4 basic requirements for the NATO trials. Even though the P90 was a defensive weapon made for vehicle crews or troops not meant to see frontline combat and wasn't adopted by NATO, it was still very popular, with it being in use in over 40 different nations in both military and law enforcement. With FN continuing to upgrade the P90, before the trials had even started, they had created the P90TR or Triple Rail in 1999 to replace the integrated reflex sight with a Picatinny rail, and later introducing the PS90 line in 2005 to the civilian market. The P90 even saw adoption and use by Peru before the trials in 1997, when Peruvian special forces would end the Japanese embassy hostage crisis during Operation
Chavín de Guantar.
During this operation, they would save all 72 Japanese hostages and eliminating all 14 rebels at the cost of 2 Special Forces members and 1 Peruvian hostage, being both the first time the P90 saw combat and one of the most successful hostage rescues in history. This success would later be echoed by the Houston Police Department, being the first local law enforcement agency in the United States to equip P90s to their SWAT team in 1999, with them later using them in a shootout in 2003. These successes proved the P90 was a very capable weapon, and by 2009 it would be in use with over 200 law enforcement agencies in the United States, including the Secret Service and Federal Police, with the NRA adding both the select fire and semi-auto variants to the NRA's Tactical Police Competition standards. With the P90 having shown that it is an amazing weapon in the hands of Special Forces and SWAT, it would basically become inseparable with them. Frequently seen as the preferred tool of SWAT teams, counter-terror units, and Secret Service, as the perfect tool to fill a niche as an offensive SMG that can defeat body armor. It in turn became a fancy sci-fi weapon with these strange curves that could take a short rifle round with a unique 50-round mag that lets you see how many shots you have left with a built-in red dot. This gave it a prominent place in sci-fi settings, all the way from James Bond films to being the standard issue weapon in the Stargate series. Outside of film and TV, the P90 has been seen in almost every FPS game as an SMG for players of lower skill, with its high capacity, low recoil, and fast fire rate, making it something close to a pocket LMG without the long reload or low ergonomics of an LMG. All while never being seen as a short-scrolling, ADHD-having, meta-build this or that gun for people that can't sit still for 5 seconds like the MP7. The P90 might not have as legendary of a status as the MP7, but has proven to be a great SMG able to effectively deal with any threats that rise, and a popular choice for both special operations and gamers alike. Perpetually in a rivalry with the MP7 fighting over which PDW is the better of the two, the P90 has become a tool of Special Forces and SWAT, with companies finding ways to adapt the designs of the P90 to other platforms, meaning that the P90 will still be around for a while, with it using a surprisingly popular caliber that was originally built for it and retooled for a pistol. And that was the history of the P90. And if you're curious about its rival, the MP7, I made its own dedicated video, the link is in the description. But hey, I'm H. Consider subscribing.